wall that was to be, erected there along the border with Somalia. We've not gotten any update as far as that particular wall is concerned. Long stretch. I can see Brigadier smiling. Maybe you got some fresh input on that.
Diva, what I see is more like a halt on that wall. Seems to be no progress so far. And what had been put up earlier has faced a lot of action from the other side in terms of destruction and all that. And therefore, maybe not the best thing to have been done. Realizing that even for USA and Mexico, the wall wasn't the best answer. It has been quite challenged. But having said that, Diba, allow me to touch on something else. On the same issue, the fact that I feel that we have not fully analyzed the reasons, underlying causes why Al-Shabaab are operating in our country. In terms of why are they here, I don't think we have fully understood this question. If you understand this question, then we'd better be able to address the problem, because their actions are not really within the wider spectrum of the wider Al-Shabaab.
Right.
That they are sent to come in and do this.
Right.
And therefore, what they're doing in Somalia, remember they control territory,
yes.
They collect tax, they control activities, they have judges, a whole government in Somalia. In Kenya, that is not the aim. My question is, let us find out what is their motivation, what are their reasons, what drives them, and address that problem. And partly tied in with what I'll say is what I saw in West Africa with the Boko Haram.
Thank you.
It's a purely tags and not really
right, thank
ideology.
You. I think we shall reserve that particular discussion for the AMISOM, who are trying now to get the boots from the ground actually in Somalia, then a wider perspective of what really portends also for Al-Shabaab or insecurity there in Somalia as well. But still on the wall, this was also a big debate in Somalia Parliament as well. They were not really happy with this particular development. I don't know if you've got any input on that.
So, the wall is a bad idea, as the General said. 2 drones can do what the wall can do. I mean, people have to think. It's really important for people to think about these things in a way that's...
I think the debate about the wall began before the advent of the drone. I don't know.
No,
Let
me just finish. The technology developed.
The technology was there, but maybe we're not really...
Let me just finish that point.
Sure, sure.
So the debate, Debal, is that, the most important thing about these things is that there's no wall high enough that's going to keep these people away, or there's no wall high enough that's going to change anything about terrorism in Somalia and in Kenya.
Yes.
Of course, the basic political solution for us stamping out terrorism is to have a state in Somalia. Of course, that's a long-term, short-term, medium-term view. And once we have that state that provides security for its own citizens, we in Kenya don't have to worry about those things. Of course, that is wrought with fundamental political issues. I want to remind you that the Secretary of State of the United States is visiting this region. He's in Ethiopia, and he's met Mr. Abiy, and I think that that issue of the wall, Debal, is not a security issue, and nothing that will make us discuss something like that is going to be a solution. Yeah.
I think there is a lot of civic education that need to be done on this wall. A blanket kind of condemnation or saying the wall is not necessary is total insensitivity to how states function. Border security is an aspect of the modern state. And by border security, you mean you need to control who enters and who gets into your border. You can never deal with Al-Shabaab unless you know who gets in and who gets out. And in order to do that, you don't have to have a stone wall.
Yes.
Because when you talk about a wall, the concept of the wall need to be demystified. Nobody is talking about getting 9 by 9 stones and concrete and putting them about 29 feet high with this Bipo Tower, the wall of China, so to say, or other walls that have been constructed. People are talking about soft walls, and these are technological walls. I think that's where we should be heading to. In Mandera, I think from Mandera, because there is a problem there, because the population across the border has built into Kenya, and you can never tell which city is in which. There needed separation.
Okay.
And there was resistance. So you need separation, and there is an area which is reserved as the border area. There you need hard wall.
No man's land.
And the no man's land need to be protected. And you have seen us demolishing houses in order to build roads. So there's nothing. And there was some resistance there. I remember during the Interstate Commission between Somalia and Kenya, when they met in Mandera, you could see that the Somalis were very uncomfortable talking about that wall because they don't like it. They want it out there. But between there and down coast, you can have a soft wall which is more technological, where you touch the wire and it tells Nairobi or tells Mandela, tells Garissa that there's somebody coming through the wrong. Then in discussion with some of the people in Jubaland, they're saying, let's have 3 entry points, manned from our side and manned from the Kenyan side. The Kenyan look at their side and the people on the other side look at their side. So some controlled entry points. So it's not really a wall. It is a question of securing the borders in regard to having specified entry points. You don't enter at every point in Kenya like it is it's a no man's land.
Yes.
Have you been to northern Kenya?
Yes.
Seen this place?
Yes,
It's really absolutely impossible. To you know, the entry points that are there are sand.
Thank you, Hashi. I think it's Dr. Mustafa Stein.
So it's very difficult to meet.
Yeah, Dibal, it's walling and building wall. It's a very complex issue, actually.
Yeah, it is.
First of all, it's very important to regulate movement of people between countries. That's clear. But secondly, and that is what makes it very complicated, is that you have these two, the people who live on the other side of Somalia and the other who live on the other side of Kenya, basically, family members. And so, for example, if the whole stretch between down Ras Kamboni, all the way where the Jubaland is, if you're going to have 3 entry points, what happens to the person who lives, in a place, family member, grazing, lands, all these exchanges? What happens to that kind of exchange? Well, it's very important. These are 2 different nation states, and therefore regulation has to be done. But at the same time, the engagements between these, they trade with one another. I think during a drought, you'll find, those who are grazing moving back and forth. So the balance between sovereignty and regulating people's moving back and forth across an international border is something very important that needs to be balanced with then how people relate to one another. Now, of course, this is a historical thing. These borders were just put, straight lines by the British colonialists. We've been left with a problem here. And by the way, if we look globally, it isn't just Kenya that is having this problem. If you look at Oman and the United Arab Emirates, there's a whole town that belongs to Oman inside the United Arab Emirates. And it's very interesting to see how that is managed. Maybe Kenya needs to learn a little bit more on how some of these issues should be dealt with and study more. But I agree, there is need for a mixture of both technology and hard walling in certain areas, particularly around Mandera area.
All right, let's hear from Naomi Damba.
While we don't live in a period of feudal warlords, where you look at the other side and build this thing and shoot people from the top. Those days are gone. We are much smarter than that. And we are also live in a corrupt environment where people are going to put soil and bricks, and all you need to do is bring a truck and run it over, and it's over. So let's forget that. We are smarter, Dubal. The drone is working perfectly. There is something the Israelis are using called balloon that can go up 24 hours and we'll see little chicken on the ground. And we need to be able to purchase one, and over a long period of time it will pay off, because we need to secure that border. Anyone approaching it 50 miles need to demonstrate why they are coming across. And then, of course, like my friends here have demonstrated, we need to build a barrier where the town mix up together so that we can keep the other side from the other side. And we need to be consistent about patrolling that border and put spots of police stations so that we have constant 24 hours information.
Okay. I think it's Khaneja, then we come to you, Brigadier, and finalize on the wall.
No, actually, I think it's him.
It is him? Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
Very good discussion, and I like the line of thought that has come up, and very good points. But just one point I want to make clear, and it has partly been mentioned, is that the two communities across the border, immediately across the border, have no problem among themselves. They have lived together ever since. They are cousins, they are brothers, they are sisters. The problem is those coming from far, with intentions, with the ill intentions across here. The problem is those who are doing illegal trade across the border, coming all the way. But those who are coming to control what goes on there. That cannot be addressed through the border. It can be addressed through, yes, border, yes, but soft power.
Soft power.
Yes, as we mentioned earlier. That's the way to look at it.
Right.
Technology and all that. But between the two communities, let's clear this impression that they have problems. No, there's no problem there. Yes.
Okay, you hold with that view, I think, or you actually commented. I lost my sequence a bit.
Well, no.
Okay, it's
not on the wall.
Oh, not on the wall.
Well, Donald Trump has been trying to build a wall. I don't know how well that is working for him. But people are either going to scale the wall or they're going to dig a tunnel under the wall, either one to cross. So that is normally a little bit of a lazy idea. Now, if you have a very small country like Israel, it's pretty tiny, you know. You can do some of those things and just literally wall off, you know, the Palestinians. But has that increased safety to Israel itself? No, it doesn't. So the wall is not normally a solution. Now, there's also fundamental, you know, the reason you are thinking about this is because of the porosity and the infiltration of whether it comes to, you know, illicit trade or Al-Shabaab. Now, we also have certain failures on our part, you know, let's face it. And failures on our part is, part of it has to do with corruption. Corruption. In fact, a lot of it had to do with corruption. By the time illicit goods move from the border between Kenya and Somalia to Nairobi, how many checkpoints has it gone through? You know, it had to go through certain immigration, you know, process and stuff like that. But we allow these people, and so we also have to look ourselves in the mirror and say, you know, where can we actually fix some of these gaps?
Right, but we also, I think there is a bracing reminder from the China wall as well, stretching over 2,400 kilometers. But at the end of the day, what really brought, you know, the defeat to China was the issue of corruption.
Yes.
Yeah, just at the gate there.
Yes.
So maybe you can just bring us to speed as we're winding up on this briefly.
That is true, but I think let's also not assume that Kenya is naive and have no example. We have, in this country, we have had two brothers. One serving as a very senior official in Uganda, the other one serving as the vice president of the Republic of Kenya. We know they are brothers. Nobody goes marching in the street saying we don't want this kind of thing. We manage today, if you go to Busia, we have that experience with you. If you go to Busia, Kenyans in Busia are having their breakfast from Uganda. Because it's cheaper to get a bread from Uganda and to get milk from Uganda, and beer from Uganda, whatever you want, it's cheaper from Ugandan side. But you know that you live on the Kenyan side, and as you are crossing, you know you have crossed. Why? Because the border is well governed. There's no wall.
Thank you.
Yes.
But there's good money.